Right, so if you haven't already guessed, today's video is talking about Blaze Entertainment and the Evercade. Now guys, there's going to be an opportunity to win a Nintendo Switch mini control pad here today. This control pad also works on a few other systems such as Windows, laptops, that kind of thing as well. I'll chuck a picture in of this particular control pad at some point during the video. All you've got to do is study this section of the video, the Evercade collection that I possess, and tell me what is wrong in this video. There is something wrong. Now, if you guys can get it, leave a description in the comment below of what the mistake I've made when displaying this collection is. Winners will be announced on next Thursday's Wizbit's Random Topics. Just to let you guys know as well, entrance will be restricted to UK only, as that is the only area I'll be able to post out to. So yeah, there is a mistake somewhere within this video. Highlight it, let me know in the comments. Win yourself a Nintendo Switch control pad. This pad also works on your phone if you want to use some emulation out on the go as well. It's a quite a handy little device. Anyway guys, let's get on with today's video.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to Wizbit's Random Gaming. I'm Tony Wizbit, and this is Wizbit's Random Topics on a Thursday. And as you may have sussed out by now, today's topic is going to be the Evercade. What the Evercade has achieved in its short lifespan, the successes, the failures, and what's its end goal. Because I'll be honest with you, as a big Evercade fan and a big Evercade supporter, right now I don't know what they're looking to achieve. But let's get into it. So the Evercade started around about 2020, I believe. Came out as a handheld. I first saw it on a few YouTube channels and also on Argos. I saw them having it on the pre-order section in Argos, and I was like, that's an interesting concept. Nice little handheld, physical media, some classic games as well. The only thing that I wasn't sold on, if I'm totally honest with you at the time, was how sustainable it was. Would I be buying a product that's literally going to have 2 or 3 releases, and then I'll be stuck with it, and I'll probably be looking to mod it down the line to add loads of other stuff on it. I can do that with a variety of handhelds. I can go out and buy something like that from AliExpress or a number of websites. I don't have to be modding something like that. Not a failed product anyway. So I did keep my eye on it because I did like the concept. I just wasn't ready to commit per se to something that didn't have that sort of track record of success. And it also came out at quite a notoriously difficult time for a lot of businesses, which was, 2020. We all know what happened at that period of time. I'm not going to mention it on here because YouTube picks up some mad stuff like that. But yeah, it managed to start. I think it started before that and managed to ease its way through it, and also navigate itself another release of another console. So we started off with the handheld, but we then got the home system, which is when my interest really went into overdrive with it. That's when we got the announcement of the Evercade Versus, which is basically, it's kind of modelled after the original NES, if you ask me. Open up the flap of the console as well. Dual cartridge, you can put 2 cartridges in it at the same time. It was also compatible with a number of wireless control pads. So even though Blaze hadn't committed to making their own control pads that were wireless, you could still change it up if you wanted to. You could go back and forget the wires. We all love retro. We all love going back to the past and staying in the past in a lot of cases. But for me personally, I'm pretty much done with wired control pads. I think that's something that needs to stay in the past. It's a shame Blaze haven't actually made one, but the fact that they made their product pretty much open source You can, I don't know, there's a lot of controllers you can put on the system. For me, that was enough. So I was umming and ahhing for quite a while. Now the releases were stacking up at this point. Quality release after quality release, collections as well, had a great variety of games on them, and not just a great variety, but a great number of them. A lot of these collections, like the Pico collections, he was getting like 20 games, I think, on some of these collections at some point. And for me, I was like, okay, this is great value for money. My mind has been made up. So I went ahead and I purchased the Versus console first before I actually delved into the world of the handheld. So I can't remember what game I got with it. But yeah, I went out the same day and I picked up a couple of games from my local retro shop, Retro Giant. I've done some trades. They had a couple of Evercade games in the window. So I went down there, I picked up 2 or 3 games. I think one of them was the Technos collection, which is worth quite a bit of money now. And I think I picked up the Atari Lynx collections from them as well. So I had around about 4 or 5 games in a short space of time. So I was quite impressed with the console that I had, although I knew I needed to get more collections in order to get my money's worth. So browsing Facebook Marketplace one day, I remember seeing someone selling the original handheld, boxed, looked like it hardly ever been used, and they was selling it for £50, which at the time was really cheap. We're going back a good few years here, maybe 2022. And I jumped on it straight away. I think it was 60 and I offered 50, something like that, or maybe I got the postage knocked off or knocked down, and for that reason jumped straight on it, and I was happy to have the handheld as well. At this stage I was fully on board with the whole Evercade ethos, the project, what they were doing. I was ready to get myself in deep with this collection. Now a couple of days later, this same seller on Marketplace put the entire collection of games up for sale. And when I say entire collection, it was pretty much everything from the first release up until that present time, which was probably around about 22 to 25 cartridges in, maybe a bit less, but that's the rough figure if I remember rightly. So I didn't need all of these games, so I made an offer of around about £150, I believe, when they was asking for probably about 200. The offer was turned down, and rightly so. I just gave the offer that I felt that I was happy to pay. Now I watched over the next week or two, people started to pick away at this collection and started to buy individually from the seller. And lucky for me, the seller was only managing to get rid of the games that I already had in my collection, which was it played into my hands in a lot of ways, because once a lot of those games had been relieved of the collection, I went back to the seller and I offered the same amount, saying, look, you've just sold X amount of games. Would you be happy with that same monetary offer, but with everything you've got left? They was absolutely fine with it, and that was pretty much the moment I really committed to Evercade, because at that point, and with all the pre-orders that I had going with them at the time, I now had in my possession an up-to-date full set of Evercade cartridges. So I was on board. I was playing my Evercade probably more than any other console in my collection for quite a long period of time. And I've continued to pre-order every release ever since, just so I can continue to go for a full set on the Evercade. My interest, if I'm totally honest with you, has waned slightly over the last year to 18 months, and there's a number of reasons for that I'll get into as we go along into the video. But let's talk about the success that Evercade have had. They navigated the release of a console, the Versus, during a very difficult time in every business in the entire world, and they managed to bring it out, and not only bring it out, but they made it a success, which was, you know, at the time there was a lot of other consoles that was promising to release stuff, or companies, and they fell massively. Now, I'm looking at Intellivision here mainly, but that's another whole story for another whole day, and there's enough information out there about the Intellivision Amico without me bringing that information back up. But there was others as well, but Evercade seemed to be the one. Blaze Entertainment seemed to be the one. They had a grip on things. You know, they was getting some really good licenses. We've got licenses from Data East, Interplay, Technos. You know, the list goes on and on. And every release that was coming out was quite exciting, except for the television stuff. That didn't interest me at all. And yeah, thank God they haven't gone back and revisited any other Intellivision stuff since. Those cartridges were absolute stinkers. But yeah, there was a huge buzz about the project within underground niche circles for quite a while. So they've had a lot of success in obtaining licenses. They've had a lot of success in bringing out consoles during a difficult period of time for a lot of businesses. So I was really convinced that Evercade was going to be here for the long haul, and I kind of still am. But I do have a few doubts at the moment, because I'm starting to think, is there an end game for Blaze Entertainment with this product? At times with some of the newer releases, I'm starting to think, I hope they discontinue the product so I can just say to myself, I've got them all now, set me free. But I've committed so much that I will continue to do so. You know? But then they stepped it up a gear, and this is where a lot of people will say was not the downfall of the company, because there hasn't been a downfall, but this is where a lot of people started to sort of lose track of what Blaze maybe were looking to go for. So Blaze then announced an update on the handheld system, and understandably so. The original one was a fairly cheap console. The screen wasn't great on it, and there was a number of ways that it could be improved upon. So understandably, they've looked to revise the whole design, the tech, and just bring something out new, hopefully for the long term. Now I understood this, I jumped straight into it, and I pre-ordered it. It was quite a long wait, but I was really excited nevertheless for the final product. So I managed to get one of the black ones. The white ones are the ones you could buy for retail. Essentially, you go to a Sports Direct at Argos, Amazon, and the white one is the one that you will normally get. Now I was getting really excited about the whole Evercade EXP release date, and then there was some strange yet tragic news. A whole batch, essentially the European ones, EXPs, en route to be delivered. The truck had been hijacked, and all of them were stolen. Now, bring forth the conspiracy theories, because the internet was full of them. It really was. I didn't play no part in it. I just sucked it up, I guess, and just said, okay, they're going to be looking to remake and re-deliver these consoles, all the pre-orders. Now, if this is entirely true, you're looking at, I remember something along the lines of £500,000 this cost Blaze. Is there something more sinister behind it? It's very possible. It really is. I didn't dig deep enough to worry or find out. I took them at face value. It was a very strange thing though. I've never heard of anything like this happen before with any kind of video game console release, that practically half of their stock, if not more, got hijacked to the point where, you know, it totally messed up everything about the release. Some people in North America, they was getting hold of theirs, but the ones that had been earmarked for release in Great Britain, the EU, places in and around that sort of landscape, he was out of luck, which meant I was out of luck. Blaze, they did honour the pre-orders. You know, we all still got our EXPs, albeit fairly late, and they gave you a nice little, your name is in the credits of the console, which, you know, does it make up for what happened in the delay? Probably not, but it's still a nice little touch. You know, if you have a look at the credits, your name will be there if you was one of the backers, and I guess, yeah, it is a nice touch. But if you'd have asked me, do I want it on this date or my name in the credits, hit the credits. I don't know how much of a success that particular product was, because it ended up in Argos, it ended up in Sports Direct, but I reckon it sold quite well. I've seen a lot of people that went into the Evercade ecosphere via the EXP, so I'd imagine it done okay. Now, one of the selling points with the EXP at the time was the built-in games. I think it was 18 Capcom games you've got with the system built in. Now, a lot of people put 2 and 2 together and came up with 4, because I genuinely believe this as well, is that the reason that these are on the system is that they have a working relationship with Capcom, but Capcom, like many other companies, are not willing to put their classics on another cartridge being made and distributed by another company. It's either that or the price to do so was just so high it just didn't make financial sense for Blaze to sign that deal. I think that's the case with a lot of things that Blaze have worked on in terms of licenses, Capcom being one of them. I'd say Sega has probably been negotiated with. I'd say that that's the same deal with them as well. Looking at Taito, we don't have a Taito collection. We have other stuff released by the same parent company that have Taito games on it, and we don't have anything like Konami. Now, a lot of people are crying out for these releases. They want the Konami collection, they want the Sega collection, they want the Taito collection. Personally, I'm not fussed. These games are around everywhere, and I can play them in a lot of ways, from emulation to plug and plays. You know, they're quite easy to get. Digital downloads, the Nintendo Switch, your PlayStation, eShops, all these kind of things house these games if you really want to play them legally. So I'm not too bothered about that, if I'm totally honest with you. I'm probably in the minority, but one of the things that I felt the Evercade's real strength was digging out some classic games that maybe you haven't heard of, or maybe you haven't played that much, or you've got that memory locked in your head, and that memory is just awoken when you see the trailer, and you think, wow, when was the last time I played that? Or you had a one-off experience with that game, a local chippy that had an arcade machine in it in the 1990s, and it's been gone ever since. That's what I loved about the Evercade. They used to bring these games out, and I was like, oh my god, I've never seen this, or oh my god, I've only ever played that once, and it's just been locked away in here for so long. And also the indie stuff as well. I love getting indie stuff in a physical form. So they've got like a series called Indie Heroes. Once a year you will get a bunch of indie games on one cartridge. Now, the strength of these collections does vary, and as much as I like Evercade, I will say there's been some real duffers in terms of what they've had in the indie collections. Absolutely, there's games on these collections I will never ever play. I'll try them once or twice, and me personally, and it's not a knock on the people that made the game, garbage. And I don't think they should even be associated with such a product that's trying to break out and try to become a mainstream product. Blaze really are trying to become a mainstream product, and I'll touch on that a little bit later in the video. And what they do now, they've got this game of the month, which has been going for a while. Every month, one of these indie games, you can download it, you can play it. You can play it throughout the whole year if you don't want to do an update on your system. But you can play it until the following month, and then you'll get the next indie game and the next indie game. And then what happens at the end of the year or the beginning of the next year, that cartridge becomes available with all of those games you've played throughout the year and maybe one or two others. I tend not to download these games. I tend to wait for the collections to come out in order to play them. And yeah, it goes back to the reason is a lot of these are just garbage. If I'm honest, there's definitely some really good stuff as well. But a lot of them are garbage. I'm in a rush to download it and play these games. But then we're going to get onto some of the failures that Blaze Entertainment have had. And we can kind of link the game of the month to one of the first ones that I want to talk about, is the updates that people were doing on their system, on their systems. It started to brick a lot of their cartridges. Now, touch wood, it's never happened to me. But then maybe it's because at that point I'd slowed down in playing my Evercade. And I wasn't playing it to the point where, I don't know, maybe my cartridges just got lucky. A lot of people were losing all of their data to the point where they just couldn't actually play the games. The cartridge, which is essentially kind of like a flash drive when you break it down. This update that they've done was killing off cartridges. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there's never been a really solid explanation for this. There's been excuses, and it's been skipped around when Blaze have kind of spoken about it, but there's never really been a huge, or should I say, an official explanation. Not one that I believe everyone was happy with. And this continued despite numerous updates that Blaze put out for the Versus and the EXP. This was now a problem. It wasn't just a one-off. This was a problem. So we've gone from a system which is dedicated to retro, plug and play, put your cartridges and play it. And now we're having issues where we've got to do patches, which is one of the banes of modern gaming, patches. And we're now having to do that with Evercade stuff. Now, it wasn't too bad initially because, they kind of tied it in with updates for the system itself, such as remapping of buttons, which is something that should have been there from day one. And lots of other features as well, like auto fire and stuff like that. So they used to tie it in, and you probably didn't realise what you was doing. You saw something you wanted, such as a remapping of buttons, you'd go ahead and you would just do that update because you need it or you want it. But then these patches for games were being forced upon us in a lot of ways, and it became a real problem. The product, which had at times been criticised for its quality control across the board, the handhelds and the Versus, the cartridges, down to the covers that they come in. Yes, those covers are pretty much, they're not good. It's the nicest way I can put it. I love them, they look great, but they have a problem, whereas a lot of the time they will become unclosable. Blaze now sell replacement ones, so they must know this problem exists themselves. But yet they're selling them at £5 a case, which I think is ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. You know that these cases are problematic. You've ordered in extra stock because you know people will buy them because they want to have their collections on display. And you're charging £5 for a small piece of plastic case. It's the equivalent of a DVD case, yeah, but just smaller. And you're charging £5 plus postage. Terrible. It's things like that that give you a bad rep amongst certain people in the retro gaming community. You know, at this stage, when you've done that, you was fighting off accusations left, right, and centre about the cartridges, the bricking of cartridges, you know, the loss of data, you know, all the save states. People were starting to wonder, what was the point of this ecosphere? What is the point of the Versus? What is the point of Evercade? I think I probably would have been on board with him if I had experienced a few of these issues myself. Luckily I didn't. And I kept going. And I'm still going today. Now, they then released, so the only time I've ever personally had a technical quality control issue from the company, apart from the cases, is I pre-ordered the Duke Nukem Atomic Edition. I do remember exactly when it happened. The drop was going live, and I took my sons to a wrestling show in, I think it was, I can't remember, Brentwood or something like that. Pretty far out, and I had to get outside during the interval and get that pre-order pretty lively. I think there was 2,000 of those Atomic Editions. I did manage to get one. I was quite excited to do so. But I was starting to have doubts now because some of the quality control. Again, it boils down to I've had no issues, should be okay. We get to the day of release, it turns up, looks lovely, fantastic. I take it out of the box and I can hear some sort of like noise, sounded like metal inside, just shaking around. Yeah, there's magnets inside the console that hold everything down. These had somehow come loose. I probably could have fixed it myself, but I didn't think that was really my job. I've pre-ordered a product, and it's quite a scarce product as well, a niche product. I was concerned now that I might not be able to get one of these things if it was essentially broken. Now, I've done a video of this. I'll probably chuck the video somewhere in along this video so you can see.
Right, I received this today. It's my limited edition Evercade Versus. Just to let you know, I've just took it out of the box, and when you move it, it sounds like the insides are completely falling apart.
And yeah, it kind of took off. A lot of people viewed it. I also sent it over to Blaze Entertainment. Blaze are pretty good, I'm not going to lie. Within 2 to 3 days, they sent me the exact same console in a box, no control pads, nothing like that. So they must have had a few sitting around going spare. They sent it straight over to me and didn't ask for the other one back. Now, I've since fixed the other one. I took it apart, put the magnets back in place, so I ended up with 2 Atomic Editions pretty much, although I just don't have the components, the control pads to go with it that match it. But I'm okay with that. So my experience with Evercade in terms of customer service when something has gone wrong has been quite good. Cases as well. I've had 1 or 2 cases that was a little bit dodgy, and I've kind of just left it and messed around with them. But it got to the stage when I saw them selling these replacement cases for £5 a piece. I'm like, if they send me a case and it breaks in a day or so, I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to ask for a replacement. And I did so. I can't remember what collection it was. It was one of the Sunsoft collections. Literally the first time I opened it and the first time I went to close it, it wouldn't close again. So no, if you're selling these things for £5 a piece, I want one for free. Credit to Blaze. Sent it out to me within 2 to 3 days, and I had a new one. I can't complain personally on their customer service front. Now we go back to the patching and the bricking of cartridges. To my understanding, there's been a final resolution to this. This isn't happening anymore. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I don't believe it's happening anymore. And I think what people were losing, the final resolution that they came up with essentially meant do this patch on your cartridge. If it's bricked, you'll get the game back. However, you will lose your save states, your data, blah blah blah. Not ideal, but if you're getting your game working again, just get it done. Start again. It's not ideal, but you're better to have a working cartridge than one that wasn't working at all. Now this should have sent a lot of alarm bells ringing for Blaze, and I'm sure it did, because this was a huge problem, and this kind of thing now, despite all the success that they've had and the goodwill that they created amongst the community, we've now got this conspiracy idea where their console market had been stolen. You know, the EXPs delaying the release. We've now got this bricking of cartridges stuff. We've got consoles going out that were broken. I wasn't the only one that got a dodgy Atomic Edition. I think mine might have probably been the worst one out there, but there was reports of other ones that came in pretty bad condition as well. So, you know, Blaze continued to move along, and they still done well. Most of their supporters, I believe, have still followed them. Although you do see a lot of people in Evercade groups and message boards and marketplace and stuff like that are selling off their collections. And I believe this definitely contributed to it, some of the stuff that's happened. But I do genuinely believe a large percentage of them probably just got bored and just said, I'm giving up. It's just not for me anymore. And I'm starting to think a little bit that way myself. I'm deep in, I've got everything in terms of releases. But I'm starting to, last year was the one that made me think a little bit more. Some of the releases in the first part of 2024, very questionable, and I was just like, what is going on? How many more Pico collections can we get? You know, I was just sitting there thinking, I hope there's not going to be any more Atari collections, anything like that. Please, no more Intellivision. They were rinsing the same old distributors and publishers and game creators far too much, and I was eager to see more variety from their releases. Plus the fact that they started doing the home computer releases. Now I don't blame them for this. There was a large calling for the home computer stuff. You know, the market was there, and they've committed themselves pretty much to Commodore 64, which is fine. The 64 was a really good machine at its time, and there's some fantastic titles on that Commodore 64. The problem is, a lot of the titles that have been in these Commodore 64 collections, it goes back to their trash. Some of these games are, you know, the equivalent of what you would have got on the front cover of a Commodore 64 magazine, with that cassette stuck to it with sellotape. You used to peel off and hope that you didn't rip your cover of your latest computer magazine. Some of these games are literally off those cassettes. I don't care what anyone says. They did get some classics in there, but not enough. And they wasn't really made for the system. A lot of them, they haven't held up very well. They've aged badly. But yet, despite a lot of people having the same views as myself in terms of the Commodore stuff, I'm guessing they sold quite well, because we continue to get that stuff to this day. So they did actually bring out an Amiga collection as well. Now that was really well received. The Amiga collection was really well received. It actually was one of the top 50 selling video games in the UK 1 week, something like that, and that's the first Evercade title to break into that kind of market. There's definitely a market for that kind of thing, and I enjoyed the Amiga collection. I wouldn't mind seeing another one if I'm honest, but the Commodore stuff, leave it alone. Stop it now. I'd rather see a Spectrum collection if I'm totally honest with you. You know, you've done the Commodore to death, and the games that you've been putting out on the most recent of Commodore collections, bar one or two classics, just fodder. And fodder's being kind, to be quite honest with you. But so they've played along, Blaze. Now we've got to the point where I talked to a couple of gaming journalists that I've made friends with whilst talking on message boards and discords and stuff like that. And one of these journalists, he gave me a heads up on what Evercade was going to be bringing out. Remember when they started promoting the Evercade Alpha? You know, and no one knew what it was. About a week before it got released, I was sent images of the promo pack of what all the Evercade Alpha stuff was, and the new EXPR lights and stuff like that. Each time they've released something, I'm getting a heads up on it a little bit now from a couple of friends that I didn't know. I really liked the EXPR. Is it R? The Versus R and the EXPR. It's a rebranding because you know that full well that the license for the EXP with the Capcom games is expired. You can't make that no more. So you need to continue selling that handheld. And how do you do so? You rebrand it. And that's fine. They made a really good choice in colour that they used, the colour palette, the scheme. It's a nice looking machine. A couple of bits have been taken away from it apart from the games that were built in. But overall, it's the same experience. The same with the Versus as well. I actually think the new Versus looks the best out of all of them that have been released so far. So with that in mind, I thought, okay. And what I was told is that it's kind of a reskin because they want to try and crack some more international markets. And that again was confirmed to me when they announced the Evercade Alpha. Now, just days before that was announced, I got a heads up on it. I saw the machine, and I think it looked really cool, if I'm honest with you. I still do. I don't want one. I don't have room for one. I don't know what Blaze are looking to achieve here. They're trying to get into the American market, is what I was told. And I can understand that. But if you get people to buy these machines, arcade bar tops, you're now hoping that they're going to carry on buying Evercade cartridges. I get it. Once they've got one, they're now a customer for potential future products that you're going to release as a company. But most people that have got these bar tops or into bar tops in general have pretty much got MAME, Coinops, all these emulation ways of doing things on a bar top already. For me, these things were designed to be in those kind of menkind kind of shops where you just be browsing a shopping centre and it's an impulse buy. They seem to think that that's going to bring in and crack that market. I don't know, I'm not a businessman, I never will be in that sense, so I'm not going to say they're wrong. But I started to have my doubts now as to where they're going. Because just before this, they'd also started releasing via a sister company, Super Hyper Mega Tech. Don't ask me who come up with that name. What they call Super Pockets, which were compatible with Evercade games. These lovely little handhelds, I've got all of them up there. I do like these products, to be honest with you. I think they're good value for money. I think they're like £40-50 depending on if you go for a limited edition, and you can play your Evercade games plus the built-in games on the go. The screen's pretty decent. The fact you can't button remap is terrible on the Capcom one. You know, hard punch on the back of the console when you're playing Street Fighter. Hello. Forgotten Worlds is unplayable as well on that thing. But overall, they're really tidy little machines. And that I did understand. That's the sort of product that people will buy. And all of a sudden, when they know that they can buy additional games that slot in, then you've got a market. I saw that straight away and I thought that's really good business. And I believe that's still to be the case, because I think these things have sold okay. And I've not seen any real negative feedback about the Super Pockets. Now, the alphas, the EXPRs and the Versus Rs, I've not seen anything in terms of quality control. I've seen a lot of people complain about trying to get hold of these things. You know, the stock levels are ridiculous. Since these products have been coming out, there's been shortages all over the place, to the point that Smith's Toys, which is a real coup to have as one of your retailers, look to me to have pulled the plug with Blaze. Okay, they were recently seen selling the Tomb Raider pack with the EXPR for £49. Honestly, they've flown off the shelves. If you find one, you're lucky. But if you see one, pick it up. Even if you don't want it, you could probably trade it for more. A video game shop or a CEX. You could make your money back. Some, or a little bit of money. But for Smiths to get rid of it just like that and put it down to that price, and then discontinue all of the other stuff on the website that is Evercade related, tells me that they've had enough. They're not interested in what they consider to be quite amateur business tactics by Blaze. They can't fulfill the stock, and Smiths have cut them loose, is how I see it. Argos are still hanging in there, which is great, because I think Argos is probably, other than buying direct from Fun Stock, is the best way to buy the games. Don't bother with Sports Direct, and do not order, or pre-order anyway, any kind of games from Amazon. There's a huge missing link with Amazon and Blaze Entertainment and Evercade. Amazon are taking pre-orders and stuff that they don't have the stock for. This isn't really, I don't think, Blaze or Evercade's fault. This is something with Amazon. Maybe they're not used to working with something so small in terms of pre-orders. Maybe they're used to working with larger quantities, and that, I don't know. But yeah, don't order your games from Amazon, please. You'll only end up disappointed, especially if it's a pre-order. Go elsewhere. Go Fun Stock. You'll get your games at least. So yeah, I'm struggling to see where the company is going to go, or looking to go. They've got these alphas now, and there's been a resurgence of stock. Only a few though. It's still not one of those things that are easily obtainable. The EXPRs, another one, not easy to get hold of. The new Versus, again, not easy to get hold of. That shouldn't be the case. If you want to break into other markets, you should have the stock ready. Now, I think what kept me going last year is some of the quality releases in the second half of 2024. Definitely tipped my confidence back in favour with the company. The Tomb Raider collection, big coup, absolute big coup, and definitely something that's going to get eyes on your product. Then you got the Legacy of Kain collection. Again, that was a big one. You know, a lot of people know that game. A lot of people know that franchise. Got eyes on your product. And then we've just had a recent price increase for the cartridges. Now, I've seen a lot of negative response about this online. Personally, I'm not going to complain about it. The cartridges have always been fairly cheap anyway. They're not going up by much. I think it's like £2 to £2.50. And obviously the same equivalent depending on where you live in the world, whether it be Australia, whether it be Canada, America. That kind of increase is all quite similar. But, you know, things change. Everything's going up in the world. I don't have a problem with that per se. I've seen some people saying I could get Switch retro collections for the same price. I'm done with Blaze now. Well, good luck. Okay? because most Switch games out there on a cartridge are, especially the first party stuff, a lot more expensive. You might get the odd one or two retro collections out there you can pick up on that same sort of price bracket. If that's what you want to limit your gaming collection to, go ahead, knock yourself out. Because I don't think it's a fair comparison. You know, I've been moaning about Blaze a little bit during the course of this video, but yeah, it's not a fair comparison to be comparing them to Nintendo in that way. You've got to put things into context, I believe. It's still fair play to criticise a company when things get wrong, don't get me wrong at all. They're taking your money, they're asking you for your money. You should be able to criticise them, and people do. But at the same time, before launching into that criticism, maybe put things into context. Comparing them to Nintendo in a lot of ways, and not in this case anyway. So yeah, we've got the recent price increase for cartridges. A lot of people moaning about that. A lot of people kind of like, well, which is kind of the bracket that I fall into. I'm still happy to pay for it. If they can maintain the prices that they have set now for the next 3 to 4 years, I don't think that's bad at all. The only thing I would ask now is that with these increases, you need to start putting more games on your collections again. The collections have been shrinking. They really have. We're getting 6 games on cartridges now. We used to get like 12 to 15, in some cases more. Now I understand it's probably due to licensing fees, companies seeing that the Evercade is probably more popular than anyone actually thought it ever would be, so they're looking to charge a bit more for their licenses. But still, I do think we need more games per cartridge if you're going to keep these prices going as they are. The Giga Carts, which is a bigger memory card essentially inside your cartridge, prices have gone up for that as well. I don't mind as long as the quality titles keep coming. You've got to have bigger stuff, bigger memory in order to bring a lot of these PlayStation 1 games onto the system, or the equivalent of a PlayStation 1. So I don't mind that. Now my real issue at the moment is I don't know the direction of the company. The stock levels worry me. Are they struggling in terms of what they're trying to achieve? Now this has all been playing on my mind for a while. But what really pushed me the other day is when I saw their latest cartridge announcement. So we've got Indie Heroes 4. We knew that was coming. I don't think that's going to be a great collection, if I'm totally honest with you. But I'll pick it up. I like supporting the indie stuff. And then we've got another Atari arcade collection that was announced. That to me was one of the most disappointing drops out of the blue for a long time on this system. I said at the beginning of this video, leave Atari alone now. I thought they were leaving Atari alone because of the long gap between releases. It's clear that they probably couldn't renegotiate with Atari at the time because Atari changes ownership so much. But now they're in a position to do so, and they're bringing out another collection. There's 1 or 2 games on there that's not bad, but I don't want no more Atari. I don't want no more Commodore 64. Go out there, seek and find something else. I'm struggling to see where you're going as a company. Are you going to focus on hardware? Are you going to focus on software? Or are you going to try and balance in between? Because I think that is what they're trying to do. But there's definitely something going wrong here. Your stock levels are poor. Retailers are struggling to get hold of your stuff. There's a manufacturing problem somewhere, I'm certain of it. But then also disappointing licenses like the Atari one. For me, it's just really underwhelming at a time when I'm starting to think, what's going on with this company? What's going on with the whole ethos of Evercade? You've just announced a great deal with SNK. but there's been no real confirmation of whether or not any of those games are coming to a cartridge. This would have been the right time. Dropping that announcement now. Instead you gave us Atari Arcade Collection. I don't know. I really don't. I'm still on board at the moment. I'm still going to be buying the products. I want that full set. But at times, like I said, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I hope they call it a day soon. Because I want to be able to say, that's it, I've done them, I've got everything I need. I don't want to have to buy a lot of these cartridges. A lot of people will call me stupid. They'll say that you should just buy what you want. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm not going to say I'm not being stupid here. I think most collectors in some ways are stupid. Or could be debated as stupid by other members of the public. But yeah, the disappointment was real the other day when I saw that arcade collection from Atari. To the point that I'm glad that I delayed making this video. This was supposed to be filmed last week. I'm glad that I didn't film it last week, and I've done it today. Because it changed my entire outlook of the video. You know? We're going to get SNK products. There's going to be more alphas, I would imagine, with SNK games built in. You're probably going to get a Super Pocket with SNK stuff built in. You know? And that's nice. That's great. But people want to see the cartridges. People want to see more variety. People want to see more games on their collections once again. They don't want to continue to see the same publishers time and time again. You know, some of them have been great. The Toapan collections, Toapan 3, which was released probably at the back end of 2024, I believe. Pretty much impossible to get hold of right now. One of the best collections on the console, if not the best. But we want more of that. If you're going to continue to give us the same publishers time and time again, then you've got to wow us with the titles that are on offer. Otherwise, people are just going to go, you're just recycling the same old thing over and over again, and it's just whatever games you can get from that particular publisher in order to make up the numbers and give us another collection. Toapan 3 and 4, definitely not the case. You've delivered with those. Bangers, great. Pico, leave it alone. Atari, leave them alone. Commodore 64, please stop now. I want to be on board with this. I really do. I want to carry on. And there's going to be people out there that disagree with me. That's fine. Everyone's got an opinion. And I'm not going to disagree with your opinion. You're entitled to it. I'm just looking at how I see things. Guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think what's happening with the Evercade. Where you see it going in the future. What you think, what your thoughts on what they've achieved in the past. I'd love to know your thoughts. In the meantime, guys, please take the time to consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Give the video a share, give us a like, smash that bell notification, and then I'll see you on the next video. Take care for now.